Welcome to What in the World, a project initiated by Hungry for Life International. Today's podcast is titled Ukraine Staff Trip Update, and Jess will be interviewing Jeremy and Kristie. So grab your headphones, sit back, relax, and listen as we hear about what it was like visiting Ukraine.
And we're back with another episode of the What in the World podcast. And today we have two extra special guests that I pulled from their offices. Jeremy and Kristie are two of our staff. So welcome here, guys.
Thank you.
They are doing a Ukraine trip update because they got home on Friday, right? Mm-hmm. So just to give a bit of context to our listeners, in October, 11 of our staff went to Ukraine to just meet with our partners and do some distributions and get to see kind of where our money went. And I should say where your money went, fellow listeners. And there was always this idea that the opportunity would come up again in April or May. And then here it is. And how many of you guys went?
8.
Yeah.
There was 8 of us.
Eight, a couple staff, couple not staff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of banded together with some of our staff, plus a few people from the Fraser Valley group who had traditionally in the past gone to Ukraine probably yearly.
Yeah, Fraser Valley Group. They've been one of our local partners since I would say the beginning of Hungry for Life, pretty much. Yeah.
They were the first team, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe? I'm not sure.
I think they were.
Yeah.
And so we're just getting a bit of an update as they were just on the ground in Ukraine, and they're going to tell us a bit about how the country's doing, how their trip was, how Mary's doing, and all those fun things. And it's a fun change up from getting Chad to do these updates. So, because we don't want you anymore, Chad. We're on to better. I'm just kidding. Not at all. But this is a fresh perspective because Kristie, when's the last time you've been out on, I'm going to say on field. Chad hates that term. What am I going to call it? When's the last time you've been on a Hungry for Life trip?
The last time I was on a Hungry for Life trip was in 2010. I went to Kenya, 13 years ago.
Okay. Yeah. And Jer?
Almost as long. I mean, I was on that trip with Kristie as well, but then I did travel to Haiti in 2019.
Okay.
So, but yeah, it's like twice a decade, it seems. So
Yeah. And like for our listeners, what do you do here in the office that prevents you so much from traveling?
I mean, I take care of all the IT stuff, and so there's always things creeping up in the office that people need me for, overseeing website and tech stuff and SharePoint and all
The
that.
building.
The building too, yeah, that's one other side of my job for sure.
Mm-hmm. And Kristie?
I work in finance.
They're both directors. They're both being very humble right now. Okay.
Yeah, so director of finance. I have a crew of people that work with me here in the office, so we keep our day-to-day going with our money.
Yes.
You don't know we're there until something goes wrong.
Same with money.
These two are the heroes of the office, let me just say. So, yes, and we appreciate your sacrifice. And that's prevented you from probably going on more trips as you probably wanted to. So,
No, I must say, you know what? I don't mind being in the office.
no?
No,
Okay.
It's great when I get to go out, but I really love what I do here, so I'm fine to stick around.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's keep you happy then. Okay, jumping right in. I want to know both your thoughts prior to going. What made this decision to go?
I think for me it was kind of interesting because the first staff trip that happened in the fall, I didn't feel like it was the right time to go or anything. And then this opportunity came up and I was still kind of on the fence. Like I was like, should I go? Should I not? Like I feel like I was in the know as to what was happening in Ukraine, just being around everyone and just hearing all the updates and stuff. So I was still kind of on the fence for a little bit. And then Mary I think she was around just prior to Christmas and there was like a whole staff thing we were doing or something. And she just made the comment of her helping in Ukraine of like, why, like, how could I not help these people, like stay in Ukraine and help these people? And just for some reason, those words clicked in my head. And I was like, okay, well, if she can stay in Ukraine and help these people, why can I not go to Ukraine and help these people? And so that kind of solidified the decision that, yeah, if this opportunity is here, why would I not take it? And so I'm, really, really glad I took that step.
Cool. Yeah. You?
I don't often get a chance to get out of the office. So any chance I get to travel, I'll take.
Even to a war-ridden country.
Right?
She's that desperate.
Well, and like we've done so much work. Like February when the war broke out and March were a struggle. It was rough. Like we had way more money coming in than we knew what to do with. We were not ready for it. But God provided, we got through it. And so then the opportunity to go and see what's being done with that money and all of that time we spent processing and balancing and to be able to get out on the field and see that, I was like, yep, that's happening. So to get the chance to see what's happened with all that money and all that stuff we've done on this end. So
yeah.
What
about expectations? What did you have any going into it, and were they met? Let's do it. A little bit of a expectations versus reality.
I was actually a little bit scared to go.
Yeah.
And not because I was worried about the war so much as like it's been so long since I traveled. I didn't want to be a burden when I was there. I wanted to be helpful. Try to relieve as much of Chad and Mary's burden as we can, if that makes sense. So I was more worried about like doing something stupid in the airport and getting detained or like that bothered me more than anything else. And so expectations were, I think, they were met. Like I just had the expectation we'd be going and seeing what they're doing and be able to be a little bit hands-on and help out. And we got to do all those things. So.
Yeah, I think like we were prepared going into it pretty good because again, seeing and hearing the stories from like the last team and what they experienced, I knew it was going to be very similar. And so I wasn't really nervous, even though there's always that kind of that threat looming over your head because anything could happen when it's a war happening, right? But still knowing that, yeah, where we are and where we were going to be going was safe as we knew it could be. And so I think, my expectations, I think, were met as well, just in terms of the things we were going to be doing and seeing and the impact it was going to have on us.
Yeah. Kristie, what was it like for you specifically? So Kristie poured her soul into finances when the war hit, and she processed over $3 million worth of donations in that time. What was it like seeing the full circle of it? You basically saw somebody come up our stairs, drop off their check, you processed it, you did the transfers to Mary, but then you got to go and see. What was that like?
I was so excited. It was probably like, I'm such a geek when it comes to money, but like it really was super exciting to be able to see all of that. Like there was a time when Nate's like, what are you doing? Like, cause I was so stressed out. So like for perspective, like we did as many donations in that 1 month as we normally would do in an entire year. So it was a lot, and there was definitely a team of us processing, which I was super grateful for, but it was stressful, and our past director was on his way out. He had given notice that he was leaving, and so it all kind of fell on me, and so, which was fine, but it was stressful. I was not fine for a while, but by God's grace, we got through it, and I wouldn't change it because that's all that was money coming in that's helping people there. So to be able to like go full circle and be there and watch Mary in action in the store, shopping and buying and being able to get supplies and things that people really need, and then to be able to be a part of distributing those things that we had purchased was just so cool. Like that knowing that like all of that those tears and all of that struggle, like trying to make everything work and work better last year, all come to fruition and had a purpose. Like I knew it had a purpose, but to see it hands-on and to see what they were doing there was pretty cool. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's what we've kind of come to know of Mary. She's just like, go-getter, and like in a lot of different ways. Like she's just like right there figuring out logistics of how to make this happen and what to purchase and what we need to buy and figuring that all at the same time. And then in other times, like when we're like driving around or just walking around and she sees someone in need, just for her, like she's got like such a heart and compassion for anybody. So like we were just in the capital city of Kiev this one day, and we were just getting a coffee or whatever, and she looks over and sees this little babushka sitting there asking for money or something, and so she goes over and buys her a tea, and just like little things like that. Like yeah, she's amazing. The fact that she's this whole time been like pouring into people's lives on a big scale and on a little scale as well.
That reminded me, like I went on the October trip, and again we were passing some shops, not in Kiev but somewhere else, but there was a little babushka on the side selling flowers.
Yeah.
She bought them all.
Well, 'cause
Mary
she's
bought all
like,
the flowers.
they won't go home until they've sold everything
Yeah.
that they have. So
Yeah.
she's like, if I buy them all today, they can go home now. They don't wait till the end of the day and go home with nothing, or have to sit all day long in the subway, whatever. She's like, if I buy them, they get to go home. Like, just like a side of Mary I've never seen before, actually. Like, I always hear about that side of her, but to see like her compassion and just her heart for everyone she passes, like so many people wouldn't notice them, and she sees those people that are on the fringe and just loves on them.
Yeah, I got a video clip from Heidi, who was there ahead of you guys shopping for all the
Oh, yeah.
supplies. And it was her and Mary in, what's the main market called again? It's like the Home Depot.
Dnipro or
No,
something
no.
weird? No.
Anyways, that store. They were there. Cart after cart after cart of supplies, like laundry soap, towels, other soap, like food. It just never ended. I was like, the team has their work cut out for them. So what was it like doing? Did you do distributions? I should ask. I don't even know.
Yeah, we did 2 different ones.
Okay.
We did all of those supplies they'd bought ahead of time, and then we went shopping a second time and picked up a whack more of other supplies for a different location. And they had already bought 2 like shovels and rakes, and they actually did some gave out some fridges and stoves. Like
Everything.
Yeah, like they just have such a great network to find out what people actually need rather than showing up with what we think they need.
Yeah.
And so she had this list, and they are working really closely with leaders in those communities to find out who needs what. And because anyone's going to take anything that's free generally. Like if it's free, you're going to grab it. But for them to be able, which is fine, but for them to be able to have an insider that knows what's needed, that's going to really impact those people is invaluable.
Yeah, I think that's like a big thing, is just having this network. It's not just Mary figuring out, okay, these people need this and whatever, because that can only take you so far. But like to be networked across like the whole country, really, with like different leaders and communities, with her family, that's all spread out as well. It's really cool to see how it kind of orchestrates all of that. And of course, kind of backing up and really the fact that Mary and Chad moved to Ukraine before the war and got their house ready, and just kind of how that has all kind of worked together in this like terrible situation, but really a way to bring help to people that need it. It's really cool to see that.
Yeah. Can you, off the top of your head, think of like a really impactful story that came out of the distributions specifically? Like, so, or not even a cool, it doesn't need to be a cool story, just maybe one that stands out in your head.
Story.
Yeah, do you have a cool story?
Yeah, I don't know. For me, it was like the end of that first distribution, and we just given out all these packs, and we were just about ready to go home or go into our next thing. And this lady was there, and she was just standing around, and then she grabbed my arm, and she was all like kind of, I don't know, acting kind of funny, like happy and whatever, and I thought it was just because we gave her some free stuff. But then she takes me and she starts walking with me. She says, I want to give you something or whatever, take you to my house and give you something. I'm like, okay, this is so weird, but okay. And then so Chad comes along with us, and we kind of go, she's like skipping me down
Like,
the
I can't
road.
send Jer by himself. Someone needs to go with him and
I
translate.
can't speak the language. I don't know where I'm going. I'm like,
Watch out, Chantal.
Mary
No, I'm
said,
just kidding.
you reminded her of her son.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't realize that at first, but that's
Okay.
We don't know
cool.
like why. We didn't ask,
Yeah. But that's kind of
So she's skipping you down the road.
So we're going down the road, and I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool, whatever. So we go around the corner, and I guess I kind of forgot that most of these people that we're giving stuff to, I mean, their houses, they don't have a house anymore. And so, but I was not thinking that, so I was expecting to just go to this house, and she's gonna give me something, whatever. But yeah, we get to around the corner here, and then she stops us and points, and like there's this empty lot where her house was, and it was blown up. And in the very kind of back corner, there's this little sort of temporary house, which is like the size of like my garden shed. And so she kind of is telling us a story of just the attacks and whatever, and then kind of brings us into her little tiny house, which is like so small, and then reaches over and gives me this what's it called? Pasca, this like sweet bread stuff, and really wants me to have it. And I'm like, no, I can't take this from you. Like, you have nothing. But she really wanted to gift that to me. And so that was just really touching. And I was like, just blown away the fact that someone who has like nothing and just lost their house and has probably had her son maybe was killed and all that sort of stuff would be wanting to bless me, which is just nuts.
That's really like impactful.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, it just made me realize like how much these people have gone through, and there's so much pain, and yet they're still wanting to move forward and help people around them. Like, yeah, even the fact they're banding together as communities to help each other, like not just want to hoard things for themselves, but it's all like we can get through this together type mentality.
Been since day one, hey? Like that's been their mentality. What about you?
On our second distribution, we gave out a bunch of hygiene packs and things to a group of widows. So they're moms, wives that have lost husbands, kids in the army to the war, right? So they came and we were able to bless them. And there was 2 girls that came. They're I think they're close to my age, and they're in their army gear. And I'm like,
I saw the photo of that you guys posted.
Yeah. And I like, it was super impactful. I guess they both have lost their husbands in the war. We're not sure if it was this one or the one in 2014, but either way, they're widows. And so they have chosen to join the army so that they can fight for their kids. Sorry.
Yeah. As a mom, how does that hit?
I can't even imagine. Like, you've got kids at home that you're trying to take care of, and you're choosing to now like quit whatever you were doing before, whether that was being at home with kids or whatever job you had before. I think the one was a homemaker. She was in charge of her household and lost her husband, and that drastically changed things. So it was cool. One of them was join the army, and she's in HR. I think it's the equivalent of what we call it.
Okay.
So she's in charge of like all of the like payroll and like all those kinds of things. She's like, I work at a computer, and I'm like, me too. So it's kind of neat. And another one works on. She was doing patrolling around the base. The community we're in does a lot of training with soldiers and things. So her job was to patrol, and so to leave your kids at home and what future do their kids have if they don't? Like, losing is not an option if you want your kids to live free. And I can't even imagine what that would look like. I have 3 boys, like even Tanya and Misha, like Mary's brother-in-law and sister, like they've got 3 boys that are fighting age. Like, so the threat and potential of her husband and boys having to go off too, like all of it is just, it's heavy. But they still are happy. Like, they still find hope. And I don't.
Well, it's interesting to hear your guys' account of Ukraine. Like, I've been asking around the office this morning, even how is the trip, and just comparing to October when we went. I've heard a lot about rebuilding, and I've heard a lot about, like, Chad was just mentioning you guys went to Bucha, to the Street of Death, where we went. And even when we went, it was somewhat cleaned up. But can you describe it today?
We were at the end of the street, and he's like, I think that was the Street of Death. He didn't even realize what street we were on.
Right.
Because it had been so fixed up.
Yeah. It's crazy. Like, the buildings, like new siding or new roofs and new windows and...
Like, even the fences and things, like a lot of places we went, it was all like had been hit by shrapnel, so there's holes in everything.
Yeah.
And like it had all been fixed. Like, you would never have known anything had happened there.
That's them. Like, that's the Ukrainians. Like, we will rebuild. I feel like I've heard that throughout, like, since day one, right?
Well, and the rebuilding that they are doing in spite of not knowing what's coming. Like, the war's not done. They're rebuilding, but that doesn't mean that that situation could change
Right.
drastically, right?
Yeah.
So for them to have hope and rebuild regardless of what,
Yeah.
um,
Did anything about the people surprise you?
I mean, their resiliency. I'm not sure if it surprised me or not because I've heard that that's what's happening. They're just being resilient and whatnot. But to see that in action, I think was a different thing than just hearing it. And yeah, I don't know. It's a weird thing of like people who are in these certain cities we went that are rebuilding, yet they don't know, like you said, like if, another bomb's going to come the way or not. But then still the pain of people who have lost their loved ones, and the uncertainty of like those that are going to the front lines. Like that is a real threat day in and day out of either getting called up or people that are in the front lines and will they make it another day. Yeah, I don't know, the whole experience was a weird mix of like seeing cool, but like, good things of the resiliency and banding together, but then also the fact that this is not over and it's still continuing on, and just the heartbreak that continues to happen day after day. It's
We forget about it here, right? Like, I mean, here in the office, we hear a lot about it, and we're lucky that we get that feed, but most of the world, it's kind of been
forgotten.
Yeah, I didn't want to use that word, but it
really has.
Yeah,
Like,
and so
I've been talking with people in my own influence since I've been back. They're like, well, it's way better now, right? And I was like, nothing's
about the
changed.
same. Yeah.
Nothing has changed since the war started. But it's still happening. There's still terrible things happening, and we just so easily forget here.
And Chad was even mentioning that, like, okay, so it's been past a year now, and how long can somebody sustain living in trauma, right? Like it's you're not leaving this, like you're listening to air sirens and you're listening to who knows what happening. And he said that a couple of people that we met had since passed away to when you guys went, just from different health related issues, or
people are dying from heart attacks,
and
strokes, and from stress.
Yeah. So there's that whole layer of it too, right? Like, how does trauma affect them as like physiologically, like, and so I'm sure it'll be interesting we're gonna keep sending teams like forever probably, and so it'll be interesting to see the layers peeled back of that. But what was it like though? Like, how much more real did it make it for you guys going? Like, we've talked a lot about the war around here, and so but to go and see, I'm trying to word this question right. I think I wrote it down. Hold on. No, I didn't write it down. But like, Kristie, you said somebody asked. Can I say what somebody asked you? You said somebody asked you, is your life changed? And you're like, no, it's not changed. But that's kind of what I'm getting at. Like, can you explain why your life is not changed? And what is it since going?
Yeah. So it was my dad. Not to throw him under the bus. He's like, was it like life changing? And I was like, I don't know how to answer that. I'm like, still processing. Like, we just got back. But I think we talk about it so much around the office too that normalize isn't the right word, but you kind of get used to hearing what's been going on. But then to show up and see it on like life size, not just
real
in a
time.
picture.
Yeah.
And like some of the buildings that have been blown out that still have bookshelves with books on them. And there was one building I went into and like their piano's just sitting there, or a photo album of old like black and white photos. And I'm like, who left these behind that maybe wants them again, or are they ever coming back? Like so many people have left and so few have come back. And it's always different to walk in it, to smell it, to touch it. Like, yeah.
Yep, totally agree. It's one thing to see it and hear the stories, and we're pretty close to it working in this environment, like we do hear about it regularly, but to be there is another thing for sure. Like walking through the buildings that have been blown up was pretty eye-opening because, yeah, just like you said, there's like things that are left behind. Like I took a few pictures to remind myself constantly, like a little doll that was just like fallen over on this stairwell that was just left behind by a little girl, I'm sure, and dishes strewn about and just all this stuff, and it's kind of represents like the families and the lives that have been impacted. So yeah, it's very real to me now, I would say, and I have a huge respect for what Mary's family and Chad and her whole family are doing in Ukraine and continue to do day by day. It's just unbelievable. Like
It really is unbelievable.
yeah, day in and day out, like for over a year. Like that's just.
They need lots of prayer. They've gone from like a sprint to a marathon, and I just saw like how tired they are. Like they're still moving at Mach speed because that's what they do. And people need help. But how do you slow down when you need to slow down, when there's so much need around you and you get tired? So
yeah. But yeah, there's many, many layers to that for sure. And how are Tanya and Misha doing?
Tired.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was life-giving for them, for us to come and just be with them, but also like, I mean, we didn't, I don't think, thought about it at the time, but we were just helping clean up and do the dishes and all that. And she was commenting on the fact that like she doesn't have to do all that when we're here, and she was so thankful for that. Like
that we just kind of moved in and made ourselves at home.
Yeah.
Like, which was partially the goal. We didn't want to go and be more work for her. I mean, there is more work. Jen, like, can't help but having 8 extra people in your house. There's going to be other stuff, but like trying to do our best to be a blessing and not a burden and just take care of stuff. Yeah. They're
That's
amazing people. It was really cool to see them in
Did you
real
meet
life.
the boys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
They make me laugh.
They made me laugh too.
They're quite funny.
Yeah.
But their spirits are very high.
Yes.
Yeah.
We obviously don't see the other side of that being there just for a glimpse, but when we were there, their spirits were very high. So,
Yeah.
but okay, hardest part and best part.
Like, I don't know if it's one specific thing with the hardest part, but seeing all the destruction in people's lives that have been lost and turned inside out, like, and the amount of it, like, it's not just like one little area, it's like everywhere.
And you have like one apartment building that's been blown out, and there's how many apartments that affects like how many families and families' lives in that one building, and then there's dozens and dozens and dozens of buildings just that we saw.
Yeah.
Hey, question. Did you guys go, I think it was Irpin. Did you go to Irpin?
Yeah.
Was Irpin? Was there the lady sitting across from the blown up building?
No, she was not there when we were there.
Okay.
That's the one that they wouldn't let them out.
Yeah.
The building's gone. They've torn it down.
Oh.
So they wanted to keep it as a memorial, I guess, the story goes. But the community didn't want the reminder, so they've torn it down.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was the hardest part for you. It was just like the sights and the scene. What about you?
I think hearing people's stories firsthand.
Yeah.
Like, and news stories, like, and just realizing the weight of what this war has done. Like, there's no one there that hasn't been impacted. No one. There's no one that hasn't had some sort of trauma. And so just the weight of, I know God's bigger than all of it, but like the weight of what they need to still overcome eventually. Like, let's say the war ended tomorrow. What does that mean? Like, they've been through so much, like, and so their mental health and like, and, yeah, just what they still have to go through and come through.
Yeah. What about I don't want to call it the best part, but I don't have another word. So what was the best part?
Just knowing that, I think us being there, it was just a really small thing that we could do, but that was helpful to and encouraging to the people that we're working with there and that we met. Yeah, we heard that kind of time and time again, that we're just so thankful that you came and that we can share with you and that type of thing in this situation, and how all these different things kind of are working together to bring aid to so many people. Like we were one of the first organizations to be giving aid to people in the first few days and weeks, and that just blows me away because we're a pretty small organization overall.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Best part.
You know what? The first thing that honestly came to mind was like the country itself. It is beautiful.
It is.
It is so beautiful. I don't know what I
Yeah.
thought it was going to look like, but I didn't do any kind of research or look at all. Like, I just hear these stories about the people, but like the land is like, I kind of felt like I grew up in Saskatchewan. I grew up in the prairies, wide open skies, like great sunsets, and like it just was so beautiful, regardless of like everything else going on. Like, it was definitely just really neat to see a new part of the world. Yeah, it's not very deep or anything, but like I definitely, the first
Doesn't
thing that
have to
comes
be.
to mind,
Yeah.
was the land, like, and then the mountains. The mountains are like miniature compared to ours.
Yeah.
So that's not what I was expecting when they said mountains. But like just beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
And even like the hospitality of everyone, like even the soldiers, when we get to checkpoints or whatever, like so friendly, always smiling and waving, and just not what I expected from anyone in the army. Like, I go across the border to the US and I'm terrified of all of the police that I run into, because they're just like not always very nice. But there, like, everyone was just so friendly, and I think excited too, like that there's people there to help and that they're not alone.
Right. Yeah. Cool. Well, is there anything else about the trip you wanted to add as a whole?
Well, the good news is I did not break their espresso machine like we thought I did.
Oh,
I helped.
Mary has a very fancy espresso machine.
We broke Tanya's.
Oh,
Or
you
we
broke-
tried to break Tanya's.
Yeah, but then we fixed it, so it's all good.
Okay.
Yes, so they
That's
can
great news.
continue on with their caffeine to get through the day.
Yeah.
Praise the Lord. Cool. Okay. Well, hey, thanks for coming and giving an update. Appreciate it.
Thanks for
Oh, maybe one thing to add
Yeah.
is, like, if you're thinking about giving, there is still so much work to be done there. And because it's out of the news, funds definitely have slowed down. So if God's put it on your heart to give, do. They need it. They need the help to rebuild and to start again. And yeah.
Yes. Thanks for that reminder.
Mm-hmm.
There it is. You can donate at hungryforlife.org/donate. There we go. Right?
Yes. I think
Call
so.
Kristie, yeah.
Or call Kristie. Should I give you her personal phone number right now?
No.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening to What in the World, where we seek to educate and inspire. Here at Hungry for Life, we are passionate about your group having a global impact in eradicating needless suffering. For more information, head over to our website at hungryforlife.org, and you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you may listen to podcasts. Tune in every other week for another conversation about what is happening at Hungry for Life.